Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may happen to be. This is KRT, Critical Race Theory. It's not the one they teach in law school, but the one banned in public schools. In this episode, we cover the first black airline pilot. Episode 2, copyright 2022. Do you ever wonder why you see so few black airline pilots? At one time, you could not be a black airline pilot. And this takes us to Marlon Dewitt Green. Green was born in Arkansas in 1929. He was always a high achiever. While in high school, he earned a scholarship to Xavier University Prep School in New Orleans, where he was co-valedictorian. After a brief stint in seminary, which was cut short under circumstances that appeared to have racist overtones, Green decided to join the Air Force in 1947, which was still segregated at the time. Green began in the maintenance unit, but developed a keen interest in flying and quickly moved up the ranks in the Air Force. He was one of very few black cadets in the flight school in Randolph, Texas, where he earned his wings and officer commission. He specialized in multi-engine aircraft. During this period, Green began corresponding with and later proposed to a white teacher from Xavier University named Eleanor Gallagher. Unable to get married in Louisiana, where Green was to be stationed, the couple tied the knot in Los Angeles in December of 1951. Once married to a white woman, Green wasn't allowed to live in Louisiana due to the laws against mixed-race marriages, so he was reassigned to the Strategic Air Command Base at Lockburn in Columbus, Ohio. Green experienced racism throughout his life, and certainly during his tenure in the Air Force. General Curtis LeMay refused to shake his hand in a receiving line. Barbers on base wouldn't cut his hair, and he had his promotion from second lieutenant to first lieutenant held up for 6 months because one day he was written up for wearing a pair of non-regulation mittens. But nonetheless, in the Air Force, Green flew planes and earned regular wages while stationed in Japan. Green read in Time magazine that U.S. domestic airlines were moving away from discriminatory policies that had kept black pilots from flying. With a growing family that would ultimately include 6 kids, Green resigned his Air Force commission in 1957 and moved back to the States, where he began applying for jobs with commercial airliners and other corporations that needed pilots. With over 3,000 hours of flight time, Green was more than qualified, but hundreds of his applications were uniformly rejected. Green said he got everybody he could think of, senators, congressmen, to write letters of support for him, but still nothing. Green was told by the vice president of United Airlines, quote, "Even if your qualifications were 100% perfect, we wouldn't hire you because you're black." The airlines were afraid that white customers would refuse to fly if they found out the pilot was black. And in a country that still adhered to Jim Crow laws of segregation, finding separate hotel and restaurant accommodations for a mixed crew presented logistical problems, especially in the South. Job applications to commercial airlines required applicants to check off a box designating their race and include a photograph. After rejections from major airlines back east, Green sent in an application to a smaller regional carrier, Denver-based Continental Airlines, without checking off the race box or enclosing a picture. In 1957, Green got an interview with Continental and tested in Denver with a group of white pilots. He knew from talking with them he had better qualifications, but in the end, Continental hired every other applicant except him. In August 1957, Green filed a complaint with the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Commission, which ruled Continental had to admit him. Continental refused and took the case to Denver District Court, arguing they were not subject to the Anti-Discrimination Commission since they were involved in interstate commerce. The case was ultimately dismissed. To support his family, Green started working menial jobs and became increasingly destitute and desperate. Through connections at a Catholic church Green attended in Denver, he found attorney T. Rayber Taylor to represent him. Green's suit continued through the Colorado Supreme Court, which ruled against him in 1962. After years of back and forth that laid waste to Green's finances, Taylor and Green decided to take the case to the U.S. Supreme Court, and many supporters helped, including Robert F. Kennedy, who filed an amicus brief. The court heard the case in March of 1963, and a month later came back with a unanimous verdict in Marlon's favor. They said that Continental discriminated against him because of racial animus. After working out details related to seniority, in 1965, Continental finally hired Green, who flew out of Stapleton International Airport at the beginning of his 14-year career with the airline. But he was not the first airline pilot. Another man, David Harris, began flying with American Airlines in 1964. Green's successful case resulted in the establishment of the Organization of Black Airline Pilots and helped open up employment for black women to work as part of the cabin crews in commercial airlines. Marlon Green broke racial barriers when he won a Supreme Court case banning racial discrimination in airline hiring practices. He started his career with Continental Airlines at Stapleton International Airport in 1965. Now, 2 large graphic screens bearing his image have been installed at the new East Bridge retail development in Stapleton. Green was also inducted into the Colorado Aviation Hall of Fame. Green received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Organization of Black Airline Pilots in 2003 and was inducted into the Arkansas Aviation Historical Society Hall of Fame in 2005. Continental Airlines named a Boeing 737 the Captain Marlon Green in his honor in 2010. He was also included in the permanent Black Wings exhibit at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Green died on July 6, 2009 in Denver and donated his body to science. He broke barriers in the airline industry. As I said earlier, you won't see this story in your children's history book. This has been episode 2 of Critical Race Theory. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.